when the Disney cruise ship Wonder returned from a 7-day Mexican cruise early Sunday morning. It docked in the port of LA with one of its crew members missing. 24-year-old Rebecca Corium of Chester, England, worked in Disney's youth program. She vanished 5 days ago while the ship was on its way to Puerto Vallarta. Cruise passengers were aware of Corium's disappearance and the efforts to locate her.
They told us over the loudspeaker several times that they were looking for her.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden they said they still hadn't found her.
The cruise line issued this statement today. We have been doing everything possible to find Rebecca Corium, including conducting multiple shipboard searches. Rebecca's disappearance has been difficult for everyone at Disney Cruise Line.
But we didn't notice anybody panicking or, frantically going in and out of rooms or...
I actually didn't even notice. I didn't even notice the search. I mean, it was... they said that they were searching, but it was nothing obvious.
But one passenger heard something much more ominous.
I talked to one of the people that pick up. They said that they found her shoes and her belongings, and they have a feeling that she might have suicided. Very quiet woman.
Rebecca Corium's family boarded the Disney ship to speak with investigators and gather their daughter's belongings. Corium's roommate reported the young woman had made a phone call early Tuesday morning, but then failed to show up for her shift. The ongoing investigation didn't keep the Disney Wonder from embarking on another cruise Sunday evening, just hours after it had arrived.
Approximately 400 people have gone missing from cruise ships in the past 20 years. Whilst this is no cause for general alarm, given that approximately 30 million people take cruise ship vacations each year, it is still a dangerous and concerning statistic. Rebecca Corium is one of those people who vanished off a cruise ship back in 2011. But did she really fall overboard? On March the 22nd, 2011, whilst working aboard the Disney Wonder cruise ship off the coast of Mexico, 24-year-old Rebecca Corium suddenly disappeared. To this day, her case remains unsolved. However, there are still many unanswered questions. For example, why was she seen on CCTV looking apparently distressed? Why were the sandals found not her size? Let's look more in depth at this case. Rebecca was born in 1987 in the Countess of Chester Hospital in Chester, England. She grew up in Chester with her parents, sister Rachel and 2 foster brothers, finishing Chester Catholic High School. And when she was a teenager, she also worked at Chester Zoo, where other members of her family had worked. It is said that Rebecca was a happy-go-lucky person with plenty to live for, and she worked as a nanny aboard the Disney cruise ship. Rebecca studied youth studies at Liverpool University in the UK. She then spent 4 months teaching sports at Camp America in the US state of Maine. In 2010, a year before she vanished, she went to London to be interviewed for the Disney cruise position, and after being hired, she went to the company's theme parks in Florida for training. After 4 months on cruises to the Bahamas, where the ships are registered, she went back to Britain for 2 months off. And when she returned to work, it was on the Disney Wonder, based in Los Angeles. She visited all its ports of call on the Mexican Riviera and went through the Panama Canal. She returned to Chester, England, for 2 weeks during this period when her grandfather died. it was the last time her family saw her in person. Rebecca was captured by CCTV in the crew lounge on the morning of 22nd of March, and she was having a phone conversation that appeared to be causing her some emotional stress. Several hours later, she missed the beginning of her work shift and could not be located anywhere aboard the ship. Her disappearance was the first such incident in the history of Disney Cruise Line. Her disappearance remains under investigation, and her whereabouts since that phone conversation have not been established. Her parents have been critical of Disney's handling of this investigation, believing the company knows far more than it claims to, and has been more interested in avoiding unfavourable publicity than actually cooperating with investigators. Her family settled a lawsuit against Disney out of court in 2016. Disney suggests that a freak wave must have toppled her overboard. However, her parents, senior politicians, and private investigators all believe she was killed by somebody on the ship, and they strongly dismiss Disney's suggestions of a freak wave. So let's look at the timeline. The last confirmed sighting of her was at 5:45 a.m., about 3 hours before she was scheduled to begin work. A security camera aboard the ship recorded her presence in a crew area, and she was talking on an internal telephone. She reportedly appeared to be upset. A young man then walked up to her, and he asked her if everything was all right. She clearly replied, "Yeah, fine," after which she hung up. It later emerged that she was caught up in a love triangle and was unhappy and feared for her safety. But her family believe their daughter was sexually assaulted, and any sex she had outside of her relationship must have been forced. Papers issued by a superintendent stated that Rebecca was in a relationship with an American woman, and the American woman was in a relationship with a man that was on board. It is claimed that Rebecca and the male crew member were seen chatting, and all three went back to the male crew member's room, that is, Rebecca, her girlfriend, and the male. It is claimed in the papers that the male crew member had sex with both Rebecca and the American woman. Then the American woman left the room to get beer. She came back, and Rebecca and the male crew member had sex again. And later on in the notes, the superintendent remarks how the male crew member had a very nonchalant attitude when being questioned. He was, and I quote, laughing and joking, end quote, and police had to give him a warning. The Corium family strongly suspect their daughter Rebecca was killed because she wouldn't agree to an open bisexual relationship with the male and American female crew member. I quote, "The only thing that was upsetting her was pressure being placed on her to have sex with somebody she didn't want to. But the investigation by one sole detective from the Bahamas and the carefree way they let suspects out of their grasp beggars belief. End quote. Further evidence to support this suggests that after Rebecca went missing, two of her best friends visited her parents at their home in Chester, and they revealed how their friend Rebecca had confided in them that she was scared of being raped or sexually assaulted whilst on board the cruise ship. After she failed to show up for work, crew members searched the ship but found no sign of her. US and Mexican Navy vessels searched international waters where the ship had been sailing, also with no result. 3 days after her disappearance, a detective from the Bahamas, where the ship is registered, flew to the ship to investigate. He reportedly spent several days on board, but nothing is known if anything came of the investigation. Her parents flew from England to LA, where they met the ship upon its return to port. They have said that the Bahamas detective told them that he had investigated for only 1 day, not several, and that he interviewed only a few crew members and no passengers. They also said that they were brought on aboard the ship only after the passengers had disembarked. Does this suggest the investigation was lacking, considering the seriousness of a woman disappearing off a ship? The captain of the ship believed Rebecca had been washed overboard from the pool area, but this seemed implausible, as the pool area had very high protective walls around it, and it is on deck 5 of the ship. Inexplicably, a month after disappearing, someone had tried to gain access to one of her accounts. The fact that her credit card has been used could only mean someone had stolen it, or she was still alive. The card was not found amongst her possessions. And in September, one of Rebecca's uncles said that the password to her Facebook account had been changed, and he did not know by whom. There is no incentive for a cruise ship to report a person as missing, presumed dead, when they can easily say that the passenger or crew member left on their own accord at one of their stopover ports. Many companies do not keep records of such disappearances, since employees and disgruntled patrons sometimes do depart the cruise vessel at port and find their own way home. When a person is known to have gone overboard, the cruise lines immediately think suicide. They do not think that some crime was committed or that the person was served too much alcohol, for example. The bias is towards blaming the victim for what occurred. Rebecca was an avid jogger, so could she have slipped and fallen whilst jogging on one of the decks? However, none of the security cameras showed any sign of her jogging. Inexplicably, there seems to be very few images of her on CCTV, considering the fact that the ship would have had hundreds of CCTV cameras. This image, though, shows Rebecca looking distressed. Why was she looking distressed? Had she been assaulted? Was she having problems between herself, her American girlfriend, and the male crew member. These flip-flops may hold the key to Rebecca's disappearance. They were discovered, said Disney, at the edge of Deck 5, where they said she had fallen into the sea during a sudden freak wave. However, private investigators working for the family have learned the footwear almost certainly do not belong to Rebecca, but to another employee on the ship. They even had another name scribbled on the side of them. Does this suggest that the cruise company are trying to cover up the real reason for her disappearance? One of the private investigators said that Rebecca's parents, Mike and Anne, were given flip-flops belonging to a completely different person, and that throws Disney's theory that those flip-flops were found on Deck 5 near to where they say she fell off into major doubt. Many people involved in this investigation claim that the Disney cruise liner knows a lot more than what they admit to. Where are all of the CCTV images? This is the stretch of ocean where Rebecca went missing as she traveled to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Freak waves, or rogue waves as they are also known, are known to occur in the North Pacific Ocean, the highest one being 58 feet. If it was a rogue wave that swept Rebecca overboard, why did none of the other passengers report the wave, nor the captain? In my opinion, this gives doubt to the rogue wave theory. So what did happen to Rebecca? Was she sexually assaulted, as her parents believe? Was she swept overboard? Did she suffer a psychotic episode? Was a serial killer on the loose on the ship? Did she want to be lost? Did she jump overboard? Why did she look afraid? According to statistics, males are more likely to fall overboard than females, and it's most common on the last night of a cruise. California and Florida are the two most frequent states of residency of people who fall overboard. Most people who fall overboard are either drunk or have been climbing between cabins or playing on railings. Only 16 people have been documented to have survived, barely 22%. The longest time a survivor was found alive in the water was after 18 hours, and this was in 2003. These statistics suggest that had she fallen overboard accidentally or by a rogue wave, she unlikely would have survived. I believe the most likely scenario is that she was assaulted, given the fact that she looked distressed in that CCTV image. I believe she was either thrown overboard or had some sort of fight near the edge. But what do you think happened to Rebecca early that morning? Be sure to leave your comments below. May we never forget the strange and mysterious disappearance of Rebecca Coriam. If you think you may have information pertaining to Rebecca's whereabouts, call police on the non-emergency number 101.